Welcome to another edition of Supercoach Edge, and it's an action-packed week because it is, Liam, grand final week. Finally, we hope all of you had some luck on your side and were able to qualify through to your league grand final, like I was lucky enough to do in 3 of my leagues, and looking forward to that and those matchups to come. Now, Liam, it only seems like yesterday we were scrambling with the likes of Grundy and Gawn going down with injuries. The memories. And we had the likes of players like Crisp stinking it up. Oh, wait, he's actually still doing that. Idiot.
Yes. I know. You know how much simpler Supercoach is when you don't have any trade left? Injuries happen, you're like, oh, yeah, that's fine.
It is what it is.
Nothing can do about it. Hewitt's missed the last 17 weeks or something. Doesn't bother me. Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's exciting. It's an exciting week, grand final week. Yep. It's all coming to an end. It's another it's a big week for you as well, but for other reasons, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We'll get into it in greater detail, but it is my my own grand final. It is my wedding weekend coming up, and then both of us, the big dance, exactly. And that's part of the reason why we have labelled this episode the big dance. And there is a bit in terms of what's going to happen next week. We'll just say from the very top that we will be postponing next week's episode, just due to the fact that obviously I'm getting married. Me and my future wife are heading away for that week, and yourself, Liam. So it works perfectly, timed perfectly. It was actually just pure coincidence, but well timed nonetheless. So you're going away also with your fiance.
We don't make our life out around this podcast.
Oh, no, exactly right. I did say to Ash, I was like, we don't want to get married during the Supercoach season, and obviously she didn't take too kindly to that suggestion, but it is what it is. So if you're going to blame anyone, don't blame me. I made the suggestion, but anyway, yes, it's a very, very action-packed week. And when it comes to grand finals, you think of obviously like, you know, the premier, who's going to be the premier of 2022. But when it comes to the premier of precision engineered tools for making your undercarriage as finely mowed as Sean, I'll say, as the MCG's pristine surface, there is simply no disputing who that premier is, who that champion is.
No, it is quite clearly Manscaped. They are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools, as you mentioned, for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. So join over 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. And that is 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code EDGE at manscaped.com.
Yes, and Performance Package, that's actually my affectionate nickname for Walshy, just by the by. But as part of our partnership, you, the good folk of Supercoach Edge, get access to 20% off and free shipping with the code EDGE at manscaped.com, like you mentioned. So unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Now, Liam, I know you have a very juicy matchup heading into grand final week in our Supercoach Edge Cash League for what we've come to know now as the bottom 8 grand final or playoffs, whatever you want to call it, but we're calling it the Participation Plate or the Consolation Cup. Of course, we'll get into that towards the back end of this episode because there is a juicy matchup, which we forecast last week if you're listening. But first, let's take a quick look at how our respective teams shaped up in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, in the good, the bad, and the ugly, we run through a quick recap of both of how our respective team sides have gone for both good and ugly reasons. I'm going to kick it off because I did unfortunately come up trumps, unfortunately, or
slightly.
Lost. Yeah, just slightly. It was actually pretty close. Just Darcy killed me. So onto my score, 2-4-8-3. Pretty happy with that score overall. Did see me rise up the ranks as well, 1,555 spots to sit 16,747. Not super proud of that, but, you know, we're heading in the right direction. Just do that again next week and see where we can end up. Maybe top 15K. Let's see if we can do that.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know. It's something. It's
something, yeah.
Onto the trades, none, as we all know. And moving on, onto the good. got Jordan Dawson's score of 145, which certainly put a smile on my dial this week. And he top scored for my side, which is welcome, very welcome, especially early on in the round, in playing in, I think, the third game or the second game, but the timing of the second game. So always nice to get a big 145 early on in the round. Moving on to the bad, I had a pretty even performance across the board, so made it a bit of a tough one to call, but I'm going to give it, unfortunately, to Sammy Walsh for his score of 73. And looking at his stats on the whole, didn't really suggest such a low score, but his disposal efficiency of 53%, as well as his kick-to-handball ratio of 1 to 2, and having 6 clangers and only 230 metres gained from 27 disposals, probably led to a little bit lower score there. Not what I would have expected from Walshy, considering the depleted midfield at the Blues, with obviously who was out, Kennedy, Chera, Hewitt.
Yep.
And yeah, but interestingly, he only got 46% of CBAs. So it was well down on his last few weeks. I think he had mid-70s or late 60s sort of thing in the 3 weeks prior, which did seem a bit of a strange choice, again, considering the laid outs and just the bids that were missing, and also relying on Doherty to come into the midfield for the CBAs.
Yeah,
he had a massive amount of CBAs, so it was interesting just to see that sort of dynamic. So yeah, unfortunate that he didn't score so well. And then moving on to the ugly, and it is Lachie Neale and his inability to shake a tag, which is becoming a bit of a big concern. He only managed the 16 disposals. He had 6 kicks, 10 handballs. And it's a big concern, especially, I think, heading into next year when we're looking at, obviously who we're going to be picking next year. As the taggers, I feel like the tagger went out a little bit and now they're coming back in. A lot of teams are coming back with the tagger or the cooler, whatever they're calling him now. I sounded so old then. With the fact that he is so susceptible to the tagger, means that more teams are going to look to do it. I mean, look at Essendon earlier in the year, they never tag anyone and all of a sudden started tagging him. And so he's going to have to find a way to work around it, especially for us in Supercoach. And that's probably about being a bit more defensive-minded, especially when you consider that Windhager, his direct opponent, managed 15 kicks and 6 handballs compared to his 6 kicks and 10 handballs. So, I mean, it's not good enough. Not good enough.
Yeah.
You've got to be more defensively minded there.
Yeah, exactly right. Especially like, there's no disputing he's a champion player. Obviously, Brownlow medalist could be a double Brownlow medalist come the end of this year. But like, for a player of his ilk, you'd think he'd be more well-rounded as like a player that would know. It's obviously it's very hard to shake a tag, and there's no, talking down how hard it is. But I mean, if you're being held accountable, surely you can hold your opponent just as accountable. Not just running on your offensive side, like being a bit more accountable to your opponent, and not. He wasn't showing him enough respect, I think. Like Windhager, what is he, first, second year player? Like to do what he did against a player of his ilk probably says just as much about him as it does Windhager with his performance. So yeah, very very disappointing with Lachie, and totally agree with you there, having him in the ugly. Moving on to my score. So yes, I just beat Ulam. We were chatting briefly prior to this record, and I was actually surprised you came as close as you did. But I thought, you still got Baker, and I got rid of Baker, and he was the thorn in my side, one of the thorns in my side. But turns out that he was actually a golden thorn for yourself because he scored 80 odd. You said so.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have kept him. But anyway, I ended up scoring 2,496. So just a narrow 13-point victory to myself over you. Overall ranking, I am now ranked 3,202nd overall and rose 500 spots exactly on the dot, and hoping to crack inside the top 3K. Was hoping it would have been inside the top 1K at this time, probably a month ago, but not to be. But it'll be, at the moment anyway, it's the best rank that I've had all season. So at least that's sort of some sort of milestone, even though it's not quite what I wanted, but it is what it is. On the Cash League front, probably a bit more favourable. I progressed through to 3 grand finals, so I'm hoping to take some of the prize pool across some of those leagues, and one of which is my own Supercoach. What do I call it? The Super Cash League, I think I call it. It's my Cash League, and it's really the first time ever, I think, that I've made the grand final in my own cash league. So hopefully I can, uphold my name and actually take away the prize for once. In terms of the trades, obviously none as well. Like you mentioned, Liam, how good is it? How liberating is it not to worry about guys that are underperforming? I mean, it'd be good to have a spare trade to get rid of the likes of Crisp and whatnot, but it is what it is. You got to kind of bite your tongue and just write it down in your burn book for next season, perhaps, for guys who won't be in your starting side. And Crisp, I'm looking very, very squarely at you. But on with the good. And as you'll recall, last week I gave a massive rocket to our favourite Oaf/Shrek/Hodor as he lazily returned a season low score of just 59. Well, Liam, did he respond to my criticism with a team high 155? That's my own team high, of course, which was also his second highest overall score for the season. So great work, Hodor. No more holding the door for others. And I want you smashing through those doors in grand final week to finish us off in style. So well done. Much needed. And now that I've said that, you watch him bust out a 59 on the weekend. But good work, Shrek. Anyway, for this week. On to the bad. Lockie Neal, like you mentioned, the inability to shake the tag is very concerning. And the 76 just isn't good enough, especially in the heat of Supercoach finals. And we've spoken about his issues with attention in previous episodes, being the taggee, and makes you wonder why more teams actually don't even try to exploit this weakness a bit more often. And yes, spoke of before, that sort of lacking of defensive mindset to his game. And yeah, once you take away that real strength of his at the stoppages, his tag has just run amok really, because he does struggle to, keep them accountable in turn, and especially around the ground on transition. But enough about Lockie Neal there. Moving on to the ugly. And after scoring a rare 100 last week, he kind of lulled us into a bit of a false sense of security, did our man Crisp, who I've mentioned numerous times now. But he has all but had his paper stamped out of my side officially come at 2023 after he scored a 74, which, mind you, was his second lowest in my team. So he's really weighing down my team and my aspirations to, aiming towards the top 1K. Over the past, I reckon, 2 months now, I think, about 8 weeks, he's just done shitful. And over those eight weeks, he scored 100 in just one of those 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So 7 of the 8 under 100. So just not good enough. And just mentioning that, I feel like that scene, I'm very much a Simpsons nuffy, so if you get this reference, you'll enjoy this. But that scene in The Simpsons when Apu is fired from the Quickie Mart and the boss comes in and rips his name off his shirt that's actually sewn into his shirt. He just rips it off.
I'm sorry, Apu, I have no choice. You can no longer wear this name patch.
And it makes him hand over his stickering gun. And then he's like, and the other one. And it's the one in his boot, like he's a cop. But in this case, with Crisp, we're ripping off the Primo label right off his shirt because he's done. There is no more Primo category for him. He's been kicked out. Just not good enough. So unfortunate.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But let's check in with our usual head-to-head for what turns out to be the second last time for this season, and probably thankful for yourself, Liam.
Not going to miss it. Not going to miss it.
But it comes with good news to an extent, I guess.
Does it?
Oh, wait, did you? No, sorry. Oh, the differential only increased 13 points. I was about to say you made up ground, but you didn't. Sorry.
Oof.
But the question I pose now, Liam, can you do it? We've been doing the maths every week. Last week you had to score 500 and, 550 odd or thereabouts.
Yeah.
The question is, can you outscore me by 1,090 in 1 week? If I filled half of my side, maybe?
Yeah.
I should do a mercy rule.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll give it a go. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I dare say it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for you. But half glass full. Half glass full, isn't it?
I'm going to try. It's okay.
I like that. See, that's a good positive attitude.
I'm going to see what I can do. Either going to be make up 7 wins in 1 round.
Yep.
Or that won't even get me ahead, so that would be bad. I'll probably just make up 9 wins.
Yep.
In 1 round, or I'll go for the basically 1,100 over you.
Yeah.
In the 1 week. Let's see what happens. Let's see which one happens.
Good luck. Good luck is all I'll say.
Thank you.
It's like in Taken when the hostage taker is like,
good luck.
That's me, Liam.
That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling a bit more chipper than Liam Neeson.
You're going to track me down. I don't know who you are.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to figure out how to like hack into your Supercoach account. And change the name to my name.
I was going to say, what are you going to trade out players? But I've got no trades left, so you can't.
Just bench everyone.
Bench everyone. Yeah, I've got enough bloody donuts on the bench, so you could probably do it. But best of luck.
Yes, well, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, we are, as we mentioned, down to the last week. But before we help you tackle your grand final opponent, let's take a quick look back at the week that was.
I don't care if Monday's black, Tuesday, Wednesday, hard to tell, Thursday, never looking back, it's Friday, I'm in love.
Yes, in the week that was, we keep you up to date on the key talking points of the round.
Yes, and the biggest talking point heading into the weekend was, of course, Paddy Cripps being cleared of his 2-week suspension and taking his spot in Carlton's side, which also saved us the massive headache of having to cover him, especially those of us with no trades in hand and only limited bench cover.
Yeah, good old Cripper. I think he did pretty well. He scored over a ton, which was nice to see. So at least he repaid the faith and made it worthwhile, I think, for those of us in Supercoach finals and generally as well for whatever you're aiming for, much like yourself, Liam, aiming to beat me. But on the performance front, the biggest surprise came in the form of the ever-reliable Rory Laird dropping his first score below 100 since his first game, all the way back in round 3, bringing his 17 consecutive week streak to an end. Probably more surprising was the fact that he did it against North Melbourne, but I mean, he does deserve to be cut some slack given the length of that streak. What an absolute freak. He is like, I speak of before with Crisp writing himself out of my starting team. He's written himself well and truly into my starting team going forward into next year. I think a lot of people were worried about the fact that he lost his what was it? Defensive,
he was defensive midfield last year, I think.
Yeah, eligibility, and it doesn't matter now that like he's shown his wares. He's quite capable of being up there with the likes of Clary and took the running man Miller and whatnot. So yes, tip of the cap to you, good old blockhead, Rory. You want to call him going forward from now on? I was thinking about it. You know, the previous weeks have been calling him blockhead, squarehead, which is an affectionate term, not just being mean to him. I'm going to call him Rory Squared, not Rory Laird, Rory Squared. So thanks, Rory Squared. You're a gun.
Love it. Now, onto the suspension and injury front. Brad Crouch was the only player of semi-Supercoach relevance, being in just the 4% of sides. This is probably not worth mentioning too much. But he did cop a 1-week ban for his bump on Darcy Gardner and on the injury front, not massively Supercoach relevant either, but Jeremy Cameron has suffered a hamstring injury, so will miss this week. Sitting in 4.4% of teams, he's a pretty big pod. But there was some talk about him as a traded option, so just make sure if you did that, you reverse those trades. Aside from that, tip of the cap to the Supercoach gods for thankfully not dumping any major injury or suspension carnage on us on the eve of the grand final, but still a couple of days to go.
Yeah, exactly. Now that we've said that, there's still time for them to wreak havoc, but hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But funnily enough, Liam, we should come clean, and hopefully we weren't the catalyst for the Supercoach gods raining this bad news down upon us with Jezza, because we actually did write him down in the run sheet as our pod option, as the nice pod trade target. So we had to obviously replace him, you'll see very shortly. But yes, unfortunate there, because you would have thought that the Cats mids would have been targeting him, because I think he was like 4 goals or 5 goals away from the Coleman, at a guess anyway, behind Charles Curnow. So that would have been interesting had that been the case, but not to be with Jizza. Now, for those of you crazy cats and kittens with trades, that's the best, what's her name? From
Carol Baskin.
Yeah, Carol Baskin.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol at Big Cat Rescue.
We are both here to live vicariously through you, the collective folk of the Supercoach Edge community, by throwing up some of the best moves and options, because we're just out of trades, as you well know. And it could be the ace up the sleeve for your grand final, as it were, as we now jump into
Price is Right. We run through the top buy, sell, hold, and wait options for this round of Supercoach. We'll chat about the pros, the cons, and who you should be considering trading in or out of your side this week. And to kick it off, let's jump into the sells. As we mentioned, there's not a heap of injuries that you have to consider, but there's a few underperformers and some different options that we might like to consider. So, Damon, I'm going to jump in quickly with the first main seller suspect, because I think you're well acquainted with this bloke.
I've said enough.
I don't want to talk too much about him. Luckily, I haven't had him in my side, so it's been nice. But it is Jack Crisp, and we sound like a broken record here. But the man has delivered a ton in just one of his last 8 games. He is an absolute liability for grand final week, and the fact he is still unable to score above 100 without Taylor Adams in the team just speaks volumes. It speaks volumes of his scoring potential. If you do have a trade, I think he is a prime candidate to move on at this stage.
Yep, absolutely. Tick that box and get him out of your side if you can. The other sell candidate is someone that we've been speaking of for the past few weeks now, for good reason. And surprisingly, George Hewitt, he's still in 28% of teams, but I assume a vast majority of those are Ghost Ship teams, so just coaches who have just given up, flicked the switch and just given up for 2022. But for those of you that have held him, and probably as well, a vast percentage of those are coaches without trades, so unfortunate there. But for those of you who are strangely enough holding on to him, get him out of your side, as he isn't returning and is in fact done for the season. So pull that trigger if you can.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on now, slightly left of field option here. It is Jack Sinclair. Now he faces the Swans, who have basically effectively tagged running halfbacks in recent weeks and wingers. With Ryan Clark. They've done it to Dacos. They've done it to, pretty sure they did it Dawson.
Yep.
Very effectively. So I guess a bit of tactical ideas here. If Sinclair presents as a unique in your side, but not your opponents, and you're obviously in the grand final, and you do have a trade up your sleeve, you could negate the risk by trading him out to the likes of a Jordan Dawson, Tom Stewart, Adam Assad, I don't know, anyone pretty much in the defensive lineup. Not Jack Crisp. Do not trade him to Jack Crisp. That is a bad idea.
That's the one player you don't do it to.
But yeah, just I guess a bit of a tactical idea there. If you both got him, potentially you could trade him out. The risk is less because the chances are most people don't have any trades at this stage of the season. So if you both have him, I wouldn't be too worried because it cancels each other out. If he scores well, it scores well. If he scores like shit, it doesn't really matter. You both got him. But if you do have him as a unique, potentially a good trade out, just to sort of shore up the bet a little bit.
Yep. No, I like that. That was your suggestion, Liam. And I like that tactically, especially in the grand final week. You kind of need to make left field moves. And that's what could potentially win it for you. And that's delving beneath the surface of, just looking at, averages and stuff. That's fine. But looking at matchups, and as we always speak of when it comes to, defense v position, like exploiting certain areas of the player's opponent that they're facing on the given weekend, it's adds another layer to it that I think the average Supercoach potentially doesn't factor in. So very much like that. But let's move on to the buy category. And yes, of course, these are luxury trades, but also, like I just said there could be the ace up the sleeve when it comes to your grand final matchup, like you just highlighted there, with that tactical move of Jack Sinclair. But let's start it off with one candidate you mentioned there that you could potentially trade Sinclair to, and it is Jordan Dawson, who is our number one candidate as the trade-in option in defence. He's priced at 580.3K, averaging a 111.2, with a 3-game average of 126.3 and a 5-game average of 112.8. 128 and did have the very impressive game on the weekend, scoring 145 against North. And that 3-game average of 126.3 reflects that nice run of form that he's had in recent weeks. And even prior to that, when he actually has had a bit of a poor one, when he has copped a little bit of attention from sides like Sydney, as you mentioned, he's dipped below 100, but he still scored a semi-respectable, score in likes of an 80, a 92 and a 93. So it proves that he has a high enough floor, which is a nice real, safety blanket or a safety net if he does have a bit of a downer. So, that's kind of what you need when it comes to head-to-head matchups and especially in the grand final. So at least if you're buying someone of the quality of Jordan Dawson, he can score as high as he did on the weekend with the 145. But if he happens to have a bit of a downer, it's not going to hurt you too much if your opponent doesn't have him. So very much like that. And faces Port in the showdown to round out this season. So could be in for a bit of a big one. Only thing to be wary of is I don't know if Port have any sort of forward, defenders or forward coolers, you'd say, that, we mentioned with Jack Sinclair. But given both sides don't really have much to play for, I think they'll just have a bit of a shootout, surely.
You'd expect so. I mean, it's kind of what you want in a showdown as well. Moving on to midfielder, it is Ollie Wines, 537k, averaging 103.9, with a 3-game average of 127.7 and a 5-game average of 107.2. Now, he has scored 3 consecutive tons with scores of 125 against Collingwood, 118 against Richmond, and 140 against the Dons the weekend. And he faces Adelaide this weekend in the showdown. There'll be a few players here that we should consider for trade-ins. And to top it off, in the last 5 rounds, the Crows have actually given away the most points to opposition inside midfielders. So it's all coming up Ollie Wines, if you ask me. He's affordable and could be a good trade-in option. Who just so happens to be a handy pod at just 5% ownership. So I don't know who you'd be trading out to him. I mean, maybe if you had Sinclair, you could do a bit of a switcheroo. But yeah, Ollie Wine's definitely a good mid option if you're looking for one.
Very nice. In the ruck section category, whatever you want to call it, Maxi Gawn, he is the best candidate in this area. Priced at 593.6k, averaging a 115.1 with a 3-game average of 126.3 and a 5-game average of 115.2. And most definitely the in-form ruckman in Supercoach at present, with his recent scores being 147, 114, 136 and 129. And he faces Brisbane to finish off the season, against whom he has scored 138 and 157. And prior to that, he did have an injury-affected 46 back in 2019 that can be discounted from his 3-game run against them. But, we are, I guess, looking at the last 3 games when we're talking about defense v position, Brisbane giving up a little bit of points there, but not really one they could exploit. But the fact that he has that favourable history against the Lions does bode well, coupled with the fact that, yes, he is those past 4 weeks worth of scores, absolutely smashing it. So really like Maxi Gawn there. And having said that, I mean, Witts had a half decent game. As I said, Hodor, aka Sean Darcy, had a nice game as well. But I think for more surety, Gawny is one to look at if you are in need of a ruckman.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the Witts to Gawn. Witts really hasn't had that ceiling. Gold Coast play North, so up against Goldstein.
Oh, yep.
So, I mean, yeah, it's sort of, it's at this stage of the season, it's quite hard to know because you're just trading out players on a 1 week basis. Yeah. But I don't mind the Gawn option, especially if it becomes a bit of a pod or just a point of difference in your team.
With Witts anyway is like very much one of the most owned ruckmen in the competition at the moment anyway, like in comparison to Gawn.
Yeah, Witts is sitting in 50% of teams.
50% of teams, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, if you're going to trade out Witts, if you really needed a point of difference, if your opponent had Witts, for example, and you needed to sort of get a leg up ahead of them, might be a good chance to jump on Gawn because he's just in, I say just, but in comparison to Witts, in 25% of teams. So, and if that gives you a bit of a point of difference against your direct opponent in the grand final, can very much help you there. So keep him in mind.
Yes, I like it. Now, moving on to the forward line. Now, we don't often suggest a big key forward for a trading option, but we do have Tommy Lynch here. sitting on 464.6K, averaging 92.1, with a 3-game average of 134.7 and a 5-game average of 91.8. And as I said, we don't normally suggest bringing in a key forward. We don't like that. We don't like that idea. But Tommy Lynch does present as an option to round out your forward line for the final round of the season. Now, if you're looking for a pod with the potential for a pretty big game, he's one to consider at just 1.3% ownership. He's turned up in his last 3 games after returning from injury with scores of 123, 104, and 177, with what was it, eight goals or something on the weekend.
Yep.
And he faces the Dons to finish the season, and they are in absolute disarray. They actually give away the 6th most points to key forwards over the last 5 weeks as well. So that's not looking good. Well, not looking good for me, but looking good for Tom Lynch owners. And he could be in for a big game. And especially looking at his last game against the Dons, he was in some really good form then, and he actually into that game. He had some really good form. He actually kicked 0-4. So he could have been in for another big game then. So if he can clean up his accuracy, he could potentially be the difference in your league final. One very interesting option to consider.
Yeah, I think he got injured that game as well because he only played 75 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the injury was. Was it a hamstring potentially?
I have a feeling it was a hamstring.
And he's not foreign to the hot runner form either. Like, remember prior to that game against Essendon, it's quite funny actually because it was round 7 against West Coast, scored the 167. Then against Collingwood round 8, 184. Round 9 against Hawthorn, 125. And then he had the game against Essendon. So it's quite poetic that he's facing the Dons after Hawthorn again, where he absolutely towed them up. So hopefully he doesn't get injured again against the Dons because it'll be history repeating himself.
Maybe we're yourselves out of this trade.
Yeah, maybe. But that'd be quite eerie if that happens because it'd be history repeating itself. But yeah, he kicked the 4 behinds and only played virtually the half a game or thereabouts. So yeah, could be in for a nice game.
The other thing to consider is that the last time that Richmond played a team after their coach got the axe was North, and they lost that week. So could history repeat?
Oh, exactly right.
Bless Rutten.
Yeah, but has he lost his job yet? We don't know. We don't know. Some
media.
Yeah,
I feel like he has.
The media's already written him off. He's gone.
Can you imagine finding out that you'd lost your job that way and just being like, what?
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And then
Thanks for
having
letting me
to
know.
call your employer and be like, do I still have a job?
Yeah.
And then being like, yes.
Yeah. How awkward would it be for them though? Like, would you say, no, you've got a job, because you'd want to like tell him face to face. Like, you wouldn't be able to say over the phone. You're like, imagine you're like, oh yeah. And they're like, tell him he's got a job still until he comes in. Like HR are like, yeah, you got a job, mate. Don't worry, it's all good. Like lying between their teeth.
Yeah, you've got to come in tomorrow.
Yeah. No, you got a job.
Maybe not Wednesday, but you're definitely coming on Tuesday.
You can have Wednesday. What do you mean? Do I have an RDO? Yes. You have a permanent RDO.
Anyway, the rest of the week off.
Yeah. Take the rest of the week and the rest of your life off from this club. Unfortunate. But moving on to the genuine pot option, as you said earlier, it was going to be Jezza Cameron, but we've moved the ledger to this man who's in a hot run of form and actually could be one as a bit of a smoky. When we talk about guys to look at for 2023, you're looking forward already. Luke Davies-Uniacke is one of these guys to really factor in who could be a nice little pot option to start off in your team. He's priced at 552.8K, averaging a 101.6 with a 3-game average of 109 and a 5-game average of 108.4. And he's very much a pot option. One of the biggest pot options you can get with just 0.9%. So less than 1% ownership. And LDU is in the midst of his breakout year. He has dropped below 100 on just one occasion since round 16, which was a 68 against your mob in the Dons, Liam, with his next lowest score, 104. So he faces the Suns, who give away the 3rd most points to opposition inside mids in the last 5 weeks, and could be a nice little pot option. And consider that he just played Adelaide, who give away the most points to opposition inside mids in the last 5 rounds, and he scored a big 1-4-1. So just in terms of exploiting opposition matchups, look no further than last weekend. So really, really good player. Going under the radar, no doubt there with the ownership percentage. But yeah, again, looking forward to 2023. If he rounds out the year as well as he has, it's a nice little snapshot there to suggest that he's taken the next step in his career. And it hurts me to say that because obviously Luke Davies-Uniacke was actually drafted after the guy that my mob in Carlton drafted. And I was at that draft. I was working for Collingwood at the time in Adelaide, and I remember it. And we chose Paddy Dow. And I was looking at LDU and I was like, well, he was just as highly rated. Some said he was better than Dow. Others said, oh, I was pretty even Stevens. But I thought then and there, I was like, this could come back to bite us in the ass. And boy, has it. It's done it already. This is the week where you're like, I made a big, huge mistake. A tiny, big mistake. To quote Joe from Arrested Development.
I made a huge, tiny mistake.
Oh, God.
What's it like?
What's it like being a Carlton supporter?
Yeah, that's what I think.
That's what you're going to say? It hurts after the weekend.
I feel like we've got similar ideas of McGrath versus McLuggage and Toronto.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Maybe we should get our head recruiters and perhaps we should walk them across the plank. What do you reckon?
Arr.
Sorry, how would a pirate laugh? How, 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 how. Sorry, I was trying to seamlessly transition into a pirate voice because obviously the next segment is one we all know and love. What are you feverishly typing in there, Liam? Are you going to bring up a soundboard of pirate sayings?
Yeah, that's it.
I see the light flickering on your face because I can see the windows are changing. The gears are turning over in your mind. Is it a pirate joke?
I was going to try and see if there was a good pirate joke that we could use.
There are a few, and some slip my mind. I should probably know this because I'm there we go. That'll do. That'll do.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yes, and I'm the captain now. We get into that treasure booty and we look into it and we find where X marks the spot and we find the best VC and C option for you this weekend. I'm just trying to think of all the pirate puns I can think of now.
Wait, hold on. So Liam, I'll throw one at you. Why don't pirates shower before they walk the plank?
I don't know, Damon. Why don't pirates shower before they walk the plank?
Because they'll just wash up on shore later. Get it? Wash up on shore later. Ooh, that's a ripper, actually. I really like that. That's good. That's top of the list. Yep. All right, let's kick it off.
Let's kick into Lachie Neale while we're doing some listeners. Lachie Neale, first up on Friday night against Melbourne. Option for you, I guess. Averaged 121 over his last four against the D's. It scores a 111, 84, 152, and 137. That 111 came from earlier in the year off the top of my head. Again, no, did they tag? I mean, Harms is probably the only one that he hasn't been playing. He's been the sub.
Yeah, I think Harms has, from memory. Yeah. You're right.
So really, I don't think they're probably, unless Harms comes in, they're probably not going to take a tag to him. I mean, yeah. So potentially a good option, but I think there's a better one on the other side. And Damon, I'll throw that one to you.
Do you mean Harms or Harms?
Can you do this whole segment as a pirate, please?
All right, let me just first throw another joke your way. Why is pirating so addictive?
I don't know, Damon. Why is pirating so addictive?
They say once you lose your first hand, you get hooked. And everyone's hooked to this segment right now. So Clayton Oliver faces Brisbane on Friday at 7:50 p.m. Obviously the same game. What an idiot. Why did I read that? Average 128.5 in his last four games against the Lions with scores. I can't do this. Sorry. I keep slipping in and out. So he's averaged 128.5 in his last four games against the Lions with scores of 140, 94, 177 and 103. So Piggy Oliver, just whack him on the spit because he just absolutely feasts on this man. because he's not because he's not. No, because he did well on the weekend. He actually rewarded us quite well. When Rory squared fell away, the big pig came to came at oinking.
Came to the rescue.
Yep, sure did. So get on Chloe Oliver, 128.5, doing well. And I don't think Brisbane will tag. I mean, they don't really traditionally. I mean, they might put, like if it's a Mitch Robinson, they might try and put a bit of muscle into him, work him over, but it's just way too hard. As we saw on the weekend, or as I saw firsthand against Carlton, like it's too hard. Like they got Petrarca, they've got even now Angus Brayshaw in there in the midfield, Chloe Oliver. It's way too hard. Just too much quality across the park in the engine room there. So he presents as a very nice option there. But also in the same game, we have...
Yes, Maxi Gorn, the bearded one. Obviously playing the same game. He has averaged 109.5 in his last 4 games against the Lions with scores of 138, 157, that injury-affected 46 and a 97. So I think he's a good option for a VC on a Friday night. I like it. Bit of a difference as well.
Yeah, he's nice. He's like we mentioned. I mean, we spoke of him when we talked about him with being a trade-in candidate, and probably don't really have to harp on too much about his quality form. But speaking of quality form, there is someone you can look no further than, and it is Took the running man Miller. And he faces North on Saturday at 2:10 p.m. and he's averaged 132.75 in his last 4 games against the Roos with scores of 167, 131, 123 and 110. I mean, having said that, I spoke of earlier about Rory Laird, had a bit of a downer. His first score under 100 against North Melbourne, but really weird with Adelaide's rotations. I think it was probably more so due to that as opposed to North Melbourne putting any time into Laird. So you'd probably suspect that Took the running man Miller should be given free rein just to do what he does best. Just run around, roam around with just at half pace and just rack up the pill as he's been doing in recent times. So really good player, as we know. We both love him. Great historical scoring against North and should run amok, I reckon. I think as well, he's very much one of the biggest front runners for being a Brownlow candidate. So
yeah, I agree.
He's gone under the radar a fair bit, and I reckon they might try and help him out just to an extent. Might pass him the pill a bit more, just have fun. Who cares? It's a dead rubber, both of these games, or both of these teams playing in this game. So, yeah. Exactly.
Moving on to another dead rubber in Rory Laird, or Rory Squared, as you said, against Port on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Averaged 102.25 in his last 4 games against the Power with scores of 93, which came earlier in the season in his return from injury, 125, 119 and 72. So nothing really to write home about. Does have a pretty good run of form. Obviously fell below that 90, fell below 100 for the first time in 17 games. So I don't know. Some people might feel a little bit concerned by that. So maybe he is one that gets avoided. So maybe he's one that could be a bit of a pod for you this week.
Yes. In the same game, though, we have Jordan Dawson. He's averaged 109.25 in his last 4 games against the Power with scores of 123, 111, 110 and 93. So really good form. Obviously coming off the back of a 140 odd on the weekend. So yeah, I like him. Not much really needs to be said about him. Great player. As you know, Liam, you've got him.
I do. Been a good player. Good bring in, a good trade in for me. Moving on to the Sunday game, 1:10. We have against Hawthorn, we have Marcus Bontempelli, and it's the first. I mean, it's one of the most important games of the round, I think. Averaged 127 in his last 4 games against the Hawks with scores of 136, 114, 161 and 97. Obviously down in, I want to say Hobart, but it could be Launceston. But obviously playing down Tasmania. Big game because if the the Dogs need to win to make finals or to potentially make finals, and obviously need some results to fall their way. So you'd hope that Bontempelli comes out and wants to absolutely rip into it if you've got him in your side. So it could be a nice C option for you.
Yes, and another guy that needs to perform for his side, which is my side, in Carlton, if they want to make the finals, just like the Bulldogs, it's going to be a tough matchup because Paddy Cripps faces Collingwood on Sunday at 3:20 p.m. and he's averaged 99.25 in his last 4 against the Pies with scores of 114, 82, 81 and 120. And in the last 5 rounds, Collingwood have given away the second most points to opposition inside mids. And also help if Taylor Adams is also out. Also Jordan De Goey as well was a late out on the weekend for the Pies. If he doesn't get up, again, leaves him a bit exposed, I guess, to an extent. Yeah. But Carlton are as well, like as you mentioned earlier, Chera's not there, Hewitt's not there. So it's pretty hard in Kennedy as well. So it's probably going to be evenly matched up. But more so, probably more reliance on the likes of Paddy Cripps and Sam Walsh and the like. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. But I think he's going to have to be at the top of his game, as he was on the weekend. I think he kind of fell away in the last quarter against the Ds, but he needs to be at the top of his game if Carlton want to make the finals. So I'm hopeful, as an owner of Cripper and as a Carlton supporter, that he is. So fingers crossed anyway. Yes, very nice. And in that same game, on the same side of the field as well, Sammy Walsh, he's got an average of 133.5 in his last 4 against the Pies, with scores of 123, 105, 193 and 113. So another good option. I mean, again, I think some would be scared away by his score of whatever, 73 or whatever it was on the weekend. But do just think about the fact that Collingwood do give away the second most points to opposition inside mids in the last 5 rounds. And they also give away a lot of points to wing defenders, the second most as well. So not that he'll be playing as a wing defender, but sort of more across that, maybe more outside role potentially if it's sort of like the weekend. Yeah, but speaking of that wing defence role, there is a man to look at, and it is Sam Doherty. In that same game, obviously. He's averaged 107.25 in his last 4 games against the Pies with scores of 107, 95, 124 and 103. You spoke of his role earlier as well. Like he attended 75% of CBAs on the weekend. So I think he could be a bit of a stopgap. Without the likes of Chera there, Kennedy, Hewitt, they need to find some sort of quality running through the middle. And I actually really liked it. He really did play well. He's got a knack for, I think thinking back to his early days at Brisbane, he played a little bit of time in the midfield and as a bit of a youngster. And so it's not completely foreign to him. And great player, great performance on the weekend in that role. So I could see it happening. I could see it continuing potentially. Playing on the wings, as you said, bodes well with that defence V position matchup. So I like it. Very good. Yeah, don't mind it. It's probably a bit of a left field option as well. I don't think many people would go for him as well. So if you do need to sort of throw a bit of a Hail Mary late on a Sunday, he could be one to look out for. Now, moving on to the honourable mentions. First up, we've got Christian Petrarca against Brisbane on Friday night. He's got a 112.75 average against them in the last 4 with a 97, a 130, a 141 and an 83. And he comes in with scores of 99, 136, 134, 81, 141, 91 and 189 since round 16. And obviously playing on that Friday night is a very nice VC option. Moving on, Darcy Parish comes up against Richmond on Saturday night. He has a 132.5 average against them with 128, 166, 99 and 137 in his last 4. Now, that is the Tigers are also his best average against any other side. So another one, if you do have him to consider, probably playing a bit late on a Saturday night to VC him. So again, probably a bit of a Hail Mary if you need one. And playing on Sunday, as you mentioned, against Hawthorn, we've got Tim English. Now, I haven't looked into the actual historical form. It wasn't, I did look into it, but I haven't listed it here because it wasn't anything really to write home about. But one thing to consider is that over the last 5 weeks, Hawthorn have given away the 4th most points to opposition ruckman. So something to consider. I'd also be looking out to see whether Steph Martin
maintains his role, because that'll eat into English's ruck minutes a little bit.
Onto the selections, Liam. Probably very similar to mine, but I was thinking Piggy Oliver, VC, into the running man, Miller, as captain against North. So it's pretty sound. I think it's probably those are very interchangeable over the past few weeks. Throw Laird into the mix as well as a potential one as well.
Yeah, I am likely to do the same.
Easy. Look at that. Done and done. Well, let's move on to the next segment, Liam. And it is...
I'm trying to think how I can do this in a pirate accent. I got to know.
Hey, I got to know.
Very good, very good. Well, speaking of pirate accents, let me just throw another gag your way.
Thank you.
So how much did the pirate pay for his peg and hook?
I don't know, Damon. How much did the pirate pay for his peg and hook?
An arm and a leg.
Oh, that was the best one. I'm glad you saved that for last.
Rupert, very good. Who said it's the last, Liam? I could continue.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I could bore everyone to sleep.
Is that what I got to know? Is you asking me pirate questions?
We should do like a shout out for the last episode. Just people who have like really terrible / good pirate jokes. You can send them in. And that can be I got to know, because you don't really need to know anything because the season's done. Maybe.
We'll pick our favourites.
Yeah, pick our favourites. Yeah, that's a good idea. But speaking of favourites, we do have one of our favourite listeners, loyal listeners and viewers of our show, and it is Empa_X Emp. Of course, a lot of you know him from Twitter, does some marvellous work for the community when it comes to all things stats and numbers. He asks, Liam, I'm going to throw this one to you first up. How many players have you already locked into your starting side for 2023? He's got Laird, Sinclair, Clary, Bont, and one that he's keeping under his hat, who he's referred to as the Superpod Mr. X.
Ooh.
So we'll probably delve into this in a bit more detail. Oh, we will definitely in our last episode, projecting forward to 2023. But I guess on the surface, before we've delved into it, before we delve into it deeper, are there any players that stand out for you?
Yeah. Laird, definitely one that I like. Clary, obviously, always. Bont, interesting one. I'm assuming he'd still have his forward status. I don't know how he's going from here, so definitely one to consider there. Sinclair's another good one. Been playing very, very well. Who else would I consider? Gawn, one that's shown a lot of form recently. So I think he might come back into the equation. I think he was one that I was thinking about avoiding. But probably not a lock at this stage. So probably can't come into that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Redmond,
we'll
another one that I've been
Redmond.
considering. But yeah, we'll be chatting about them a bit next episode, I think.
Yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. I'm very similar. Laird, 100%. Sinclair, he's kind of, since I've had him, I haven't really looked at him because he's been that consistent in my side that I haven't had any issues with him. Sicily, I've always loved. I would have loved to have started him this season, but just didn't have the cash to fit him in, but obviously got him in. I think it was about 5 weeks in, been awesome since. But just on a, I guess, value front as well, potentially, Rowan Marshall, especially if he maintains his forward ruck status, really good to have someone that can swing into to the ruck if you select him as a forward. Super handy. And then also Grundy, I guess, because he's going to come with that discount, only having played the 6 games or thereabouts. So he should be relatively cheap. And yeah, you got to look for options that are of value come the start of the season, of course. But yeah, we'll probably delve into that in a little bit more detail and research and get back to you on that one, Emp. But very nice to keep that front of mind heading into the next episode.
Yes, most certainly. But let's move on, David. Let's move on to the group rankings and the Supercoach Edge cash leagues. So do you want to kick off with the group rankings?
Yes. So just before we kick off with the Supercoach Edge group rankings, for those of you, this is a bit of a disclaimer, I guess, or a bit of a heads up to those of you who aren't as organised as others, which I'll probably fall into the category of, just in my general life. Probably ask Ash, my fiance, because she's been doing the bulk of wedding planning to her credit, so I can't take too much of the credit there. But if you are someone who has started a cash league or a league with a prize to the eventual premier of your league, and you've yet to, organise a prize for the winner, what better way than to pick up one of the brand spanking new, sparkling Supercoach rings, Tom Brady style, almost, via our good friends at Supercoach Championship Rings. So head to supercoachchampion.com and check out the range, which is absolutely stellar. They have actual templates, pre-existing ones for Supercoach, AFL Fantasy, NRL Supercoach, BBL Supercoach, which is of course coming up next on the agenda. Kicking off, I think it's in November or thereabouts. So that's next on the agenda. So look out, even go shopping for that potentially. Or most impressively, if you want to actually use your own design, if you've got like a design in mind, you can do so. You can submit that.
Oh, wow.
So they can, if you've got like a 2D design, if you've got a drawing or something that you've designed up in Photoshop, flick that through to them. They'll consult with you. Or if you have an idea that you haven't, if you're not much of a designer, chat to them. They'll do up a design. They'll consult with you. And then they'll actually 3D render it and then bring it to life. So really, really impressive work there from the guys at Supercoach Championship Rings. So head on over there to supercoachchampion.com and do yourself a favour. Alrighty, and on to our group rankings. And our highest scorer for round 22 was Alistair with his very, I guess, punny team, a Taran Affair. And he scored 2,595. And his round rank was 116, so very nicely done there. Overall rank, 34,345th, which, as we always say, you've got to be in it to win it. And well, you just win the, I guess, the crowning glory for the 1 week for us. So tip of the cap there to you, Alistair. But the overall, I guess, it could be eventual champion of the top spot of our group. Who have we got, Liam?
Yeah, we've got Tyler. He's maintained his top spot with his team, Shep Screamers. It is the 5th week running. He's got a total score of 51,816 with an overall rank of 15th, which is up 1 spot. On John's Sparkles, he has been dislodged from second place, with Nathan with his team, Western Lapdogs, sitting in second, 26th overall, and just 69 points. Nice. Behind Tyler. It's going down to the wire. So, I mean, he doesn't have to make up 1,090 points like I have to. So.
Which, mind you, is still doable mathematically.
Yeah, it's still doable. I just mean, like, it's not as hard. It's not as hard.
Yeah.
69 points is nothing. So Nathan's...
Sorry, I'm totally immature. Dinner for two?
Nathan is very much in the running to take out the bragging rights, I guess, of being in the top of the group.
Yeah, very, very nice.
And it'd be real life, just come from nowhere as well, Stephen Bradbury style.
Oh, would be, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's just, who is this Nathan character? Who is he? Just sliding in. Yep, interesting.
Don't know where he is. Don't know what he's done.
Yep.
Don't know where he's come from. Yes, and a quick run through of the winners in the Supercoach Edge Crown League for Tier 3 patrons, and I'll kick off with the real one, the real final. Let's call it in the preliminary final. Damon, your team DJ Tradelot, that's you, Damon, faced off against Brett with his team, the Sharpshooters, and unfortunately you went down by just 67 points, which shows that as we said, Nathan is not. It's not hard to catch up.
Yep.
Which does leave Bruce with his team, Sean, and Brett, the Sharpshooters, to face off in the grand final. Unfortunately, Damon, you did all you could. You did all you could.
Yep.
Did much better than I did. You actually contested. Got to the prelims, but it's going to be an interesting one between Bruce and Brett. And of course, they are playing off for that Supercoach Championship ring and the bragging rights for taking out the title, which also get, on top of that, a $200 top prize.
Yes, absolutely. There's a bit of coin at the end, which going forward to 2023, an early call out, I guess, for those of you keen to get involved in our cash league. Obviously, this is the first of its kind in our second year. We would love to have more than one cash league, and if we get enough interest, not only do we expand the number of leagues that we've got, but also we can expand the prize money at the end of the day. So get involved if you want to for 2023 and mark that in your calendars because It's always good fun. But let's move on to the, I guess, what would you call it? The entree to the main meal?
Barely. I'd call it
the consolation to the cup.
the support act.
Actually, on the other support act, the entree, because
It's
on
like-
the plate. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, keep going. I like where you're going.
I'm trying to work in the participation plate with the entree,
Yeah, I like
play on
that.
words type thing. But what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it's like, you know how, I don't know, I always get told by like my dad and my grandparents, you know, back in the day, they used to play like the under 19s or the under 18s, and they play like the under 19s, and then they play like the seconds, and they play the firsts. Like, I feel like we're like the under 19s playing before the actual.
Oh, like the curtain raiser.
Yeah, we're like the curtain raiser, the curtain raiser.
It's like raising the curtain. Oh, is this the real match? No, it's not. It's the seconds. Raise the curtain. Oh, is it the real match? No, it's the thirds. Like, yeah.
Pretty much. That's where I think we're at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the consolation cup or the participation plate, whichever way you want to call it. What did you say you preferred? Because you're playing for it. You could win it.
I kind of like participation. I like both.
Okay, let's call both. Let's call
I'm
both.
just hoping that
The
I can
CC
raise,
and the PP. You're just hoping what?
I'm just hoping that I get to hold up the plasticware at the end, because I feel like you get the silverware. This is going to be the plastic.
The plasticware. It's the stuff that's wheeled out at like, the family barbecue or the, Christmas time, because you just can't be bothered like washing all the dishes because there's just too much. So you got the plastic cutlery, the plastic plates, and you know what's going to be? Maybe we combine both. So not only will it be a cup and a plate, it'll be a plup. Or a cute. A CE from the cup and the TE from the plate. It's the cute.
Yeah.
So you'll be holding up a plate with handles on the sides like a cup. made of plastic that's bad for the environment. So there you go. But anyway, let's move on. So what we're referring to here is, of course, that prelim, that hotly contested prelim match for those who finished from 7th to 10th. Liam, of course, you booked your spot already to the grand final. Mm-hmm. And so we forecasted this potential scenario coming to fruition, and it is that you could be facing off against our future combined father-in-law in Peter in the grand final if he didn't, in fact, win his prelim. And guess what? He did just that. So he's knocked off Mid-Price Madness by just 35 points to book his spot in the grand final, facing off against you. Yes. And this is no doubt, Liam, I'm going to call this from the get-go already. No doubt, going to be the talk of my wedding this weekend. It won't be the dress. It won't be the marvelous food. It won't be the amazing venue. It'll be this contest, which is a contest for the ages. And everyone will be glued to their phones watching the live scores, no doubt. I imagine like at the ceremony where we're, exchanging vows, and we look out, everyone's just looking down. But for good reason. With a glow of the green from the Supercoach app. And for good reason. And Ash, my better half, will be like, what is going on? I would say, hush, it's okay. Let us just take a break.
Okay. I don't think
and I would dare not say hush, because that would pretty much be the wedding then and there. But I would say, can we just take a break? Just a bit of a breather, because I want to find out how this contest is faring. Is Liam ahead? Is Peter ahead? But no doubt we'll find out throughout the course of the day and the night, because this is kind of like, you spoke of like the curtain raiser. That's a curtain raiser to the wedding, almost, I feel.
I don't think it's that to that extent, but it is going to be it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. I've got to win. I've got to get the win here. He's had the one over me with the last two encounters.
Yep.
But you know what?
He's got the history.
I've got to win the one that matters. I've got to win the one that matters.
Exactly right. It's kind of like Kyrgios and who's that bloke? The Serb, the idiot, the anti-vaxxer, Djokovic. So like going into the Wimbledon final, Kyrgios had the wood over him, but then during that game, it was Djokovic, the Joker, who came out on top. So not that you really want to be likened to Joker, but yeah, you could be virtually like Joker. You could buck the trend. Buck history.
That's
Don't
my
worry
plan.
about the stats and the data that we're so heavy on here. It means nothing. Lose nothing.
Do I need to lose to like prove our point that you need to consider it, or do I need to win?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess the motto is pay attention to some stats and some historical data. But like we always say, it's kind of like the superannuation.
Yeah. Very true.
Use
And
it
I
as
guess
a
there's a
guide.
bit of a difference here because we're talking about teams that have changed and
Yes.
obviously different situations. But I agree.
Yeah. What is that? What is the saying about the super?
Past performance isn't a reliable indicator of future performance.
That's it. Exactly right. Spot on. That's kind of what it is, Liam. So it's going to be great. It's going to be good. And I think we've worked it into some of the speeches. The MC may be mentioning it just to give a bit of background as to like what's happening behind the scenes and as to why yourself and Pete are kind of, exchanging glances across the table. Yeah. And nodding. Kind of like, the episode of The Simpsons where it's like Seymour Skinner and Homer and they're just like nodding. That's just like you and Pete, like throughout the entire day and night. It's going to be good.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Well, heading into next episode, where can our viewers and listeners, of course, hit us up and consume our content?
Yes, if you want to watch us in video form and see just all of the amazing graphics and the pop culture references as well, you can search Supercoach Edge, and don't forget to like and subscribe there. On Twitter, you'll find us at @Supercoach_Edge, Damon at DamoJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, and on Facebook and Instagram, search Supercoach Edge and you will find us there.
Yes. Very nice, Liam. Well, as I've been alluding to throughout the entire episode, it is, of course, my grand final this weekend away from Supercoach. And it is my grand final in Supercoach in 3 of my cash leagues. But the grand final is, yes, the upcoming wedding to my longtime fiancée. And I say long time, Liam, because we'll have been together for 10 years and 3 days on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have been engaged for 2 years with COVID, of course, pushing our wedding back ever so slightly. But it's finally come around. I mean, it's taken that long for me to I guess both of us hold up the collective. I won't say participation plate. Hold up the spiritual cup.
Yes.
We finally reached the milestone, 10 years, and finally married. But hopefully it means that I've hit one milestone and I can potentially win the whole thing going forward. And I mention that because one of our previous guests in JP is actually in the box seat. He's claimed the Iron Throne as he did last week. And I think he's extended his lead by around about 200 points. So he could virtually kick up his legs, I think. He's probably not going to admit it, but he's in such a good spot. He can kick up his legs and take away that first prize and 50K prize that comes with it. So all the very best to JP, and we'll hopefully get him on for our grand final season 2022 wrap episode and check in with him there if he is lucky enough to take out the win, which we both think he should, most definitely.
Yes, I think he should. And yes, just a massive, obviously big congratulations to you, Damon, ahead of the wedding.
Yes.
Ahead of the wedding.
Yes,
So
no,
I'd
thank
just
you.
Share that. I'm sure everyone in the Supercoach Edge community would like to extend their same congratulations.
Yes, no, thank you. And part of the reason why I was mentioning the wedding, which as we touched on ever so briefly at the start of the episode. So we are, both of us, Liam, going away. When you said you were going away, I was like, oh, are you coming along? Are you Jacqueline, coming along to our little getaway? Okay, I never knew that, but sure thing. But no, you are heading away also, just coincidentally, next week. Does mean that, unfortunately, we won't be able to deliver an episode to you, kind folk, next week, but we'll have to push that back a week. So we will be back the week after on the Monday, hopefully record then, and then punch it out on the Tuesday. So it will be during the actual bye week, I think, as it turns out. So we will be delivering the episode on Tuesday the 30th. So what better time to fill in the week of no footy by, I guess, tuning into us and rewinding on the season that was with 2022.
Definitely. We'll get a nice little chance to, I guess, chat through some of the highlights, the lowlights, and we'll look forward. We'll cast forward as well as backwards. to see what we might be considering for season 2023.
Very nice. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or anything you want to throw in, if you want to get involved, want to sort of make the last episode as interactive as possible. And if you have any sort of pointers or questions that you have at us,
Or pirate jokes.
Yeah, absolutely. Pirate jokes. Absolutely pirate jokes. How can we forget? Speaking of which, Liam, we can't leave without another pirate joke. And I spoke of a good one. That's probably one that's been told many times before, but how much did the pirate pay for his piercings?
I don't know, Damon. How much did the pirate pay for his piercings?
A buccaneer.
Oh.
What a ripper. And with that, best of luck to everyone out there. If you are in your grand final matchups, especially you, Liam, against Peter. And he's finishing. Yeah, bring it home.
It's coming home.
It's coming home. Your plastic participation plate. And here's to finishing 2022 off on a strong note. And we'll catch you all in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll see you then. Best of luck.
Good luck, everyone.